So welcome once again. And the first segment and the first day's theme is gender diversity, LGBTQI inclusion, and women in leadership. And to kickstart this conversation, I have a power-packed partnership head of leadership teams that have come together, the partner organizations in India that actually have brought in all of the leaders to speak to all of us at the opening of this. And let me invite to the conversation Amit Kalra, MD and Head, Global Services Bangalore, Swiss Re; Nikhil Phillips, Senior Director, General Insurance, AIG; John Pipe, CEO, Anviti Insurance Brokers; Rohit Jain, Head of India, Willis Tower Watson; and Shankar Garigiparthi, CEO and Country Manager. Putting our hands together and welcoming this power-packed opening conversation panel. Can I request all of you to please bring your videos up and can I have all of your mics off mute? I'm going to hand over the conversation to Shankar, who's going to set the tone and context for why Dive in 2020 and what is to come, and then I will move on to the other leaders. Shankar, passing the baton.
Yeah, thank you so much for this, and a warm welcome to each and every one of you. We're delighted that you've joined us for the Dive in 2020, which is now in its 6th year globally. But for us in India, it's our 3rd year, and we have over 100 events due to be hosted virtually over the next 3 days in a record number of 35 countries, making this one of our largest festivals globally. Despite the challenging year we've all had, we are delighted that the Dive In Festival is back on for 2020, stronger than ever in a new virtual format. And I'm particularly grateful to our partner organizations here in India, Anviti, Willis Towers Watson, AIG, Swiss Re. The theme of this year's festival is authenticity and perspective. And I think with demanding global innovation and collaboration that we're increasingly seeing, and a lot of that, what we're seeing now is previously unexperienced, we will now reflect on various aspects of diversity and inclusion that enables us to bring a whole bunch of different unique experiences that we will now see in terms of our shared challenges. What we're also looking to see is that, as Shreya has said, we've got some fantastic speakers immediately after this session and over the next 3 days. And these guys are going to bring in their local voices, and also what we want to achieve is something tangible that we can all take going forward and implement it in our day-to-day lives, not just professionally, but also in a personal format. In a virtual format, what this means for the very first time is that we are now seeing a lot of people participating from across different regions. We seem to have participation from Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Middle East as well has joined in, and I'm told that there might be 1 or 2 from Europe who might also be joining in for today. The Dive In Festival is certainly rooted in many calendars across the globe, and in Australia, and Singapore, I think it's now they're celebrating their 5th year this year, and for us, we're still early days for us, but I think it's going to be quite a challenging, but also quite an interesting debate and discussion that we look forward to over the next 3 days. Dive In is a result of sector-wide collaboration, and we're extremely grateful to our 17 global festival partners, as well as our local festival partners, which I've just mentioned earlier, who are offering not just organizational support, but incredible amount of volunteer support to help create and run these events. So I genuinely am looking forward to a very, very meaningful session for the next 3 days, listening to some of these personal stories from some people who have achieved a lot during their time, and maybe learn something from it going forward. So with that, I'll hand over back to Shreya, please.
Thank you, Shankar, for setting, at least in our minds, what the context should be for us to take away both as organizations and as individuals. Amit, I'm going to quickly switch to you and ask you and to share your thoughts on why Dive In and why Dive In 2020 and why it's important that we bring this to all of our organizations and our people. Amit, handing it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Shreya. So firstly, immensely proud to be part of Dive In Festival, and the global momentum that we have been able to set on the D&I topic. So as Shankar was already highlighting here, so this is a virtual event. This is a special one as it's happening in extraordinary times. And inclusion is actually becoming much more important in the world than ever before, right? So as we are actually managing the current situation, and also as the new normal gets shaped up, I would say the current crisis creates both opportunities as well as challenges, right? Opportunities in terms of how are we improving diversity, and challenges in terms of how are we ensuring inclusiveness. Yeah, and both need to be well understood. So if I take a positive frame, more from an opportunity perspective, as we already see that the operating models of companies across sectors are getting adjusted, and this will actually allow for more flexibility. Earlier, we all used to have perceptions here that people who are working from home, that's not always the ideal setup. It is less productive, and today all those perceptions are gone. So all this is actually likely to have a very positive impact, especially when we talk about increased participation of women in workforce. So women who were always keen to join the workforce but were not able to do that because of the restrictive operating hours, and now there's much more flexibility for returning women. Even on the regional diversity, I think Shankar also talked about how we are leveraging this digital platform, across regions. And I also sense that, and also believe that companies would explore, more hub and spoke model. So that would actually ensure scouting for talent in tier 2, tier 3 towns, and that will allow for a lot of interchange of talent across regions. So this regional diversity will come into the picture. Uh, Leadership behavior, that's been a very pleasant surprise, and I'm sure many of us would have experienced it. In the conventional age, managers were they were also a section of managers, who would always be much more focused on control, hierarchy, and task. And we are generally sensing that all this is changing, for much better. So EQ is becoming, much more prominent. There is a very genuine care, empathy, personal connect, which is coming, and all these traits are actually, setting a very strong foundation for a, D&I culture. Now, talking about challenges, the immediate challenges, whether D&I initiatives take a backseat or they lose momentum, because every organization is facing a lot of conflicting priorities, how they navigate the situation. I believe, D&I should not be looked as an initiative, but should be fundamental to the cultural transformation of each and every organization. So there's a time to really refresh, the cultural aspects of the organization, and also, reorient what the leadership behaviors of the future should be. So on the individual basis, I believe the focus would be more around empowerment, right? So it's more about equipping each and every individual in the organization for them to self-manage themselves, to take decision themselves. And at the team level, the focus should be more around inclusive leadership, right? And the fundamental traits there would be more around openness, humility, adaptability. Openness, more, how we allow more divergent views. Humility in terms of curiosity, making it learning oriented, and adaptability in terms of how are we navigating the changing environment, accepting change, different beliefs. And in general, I would also say that when it comes to D&I theme, which is embedded in the culture, it should be looked in a holistic manner, and not in a siloed manner. It should not be that year one, let's look at gender, year two, let's look at LGBTI, then mental wellness. I mean, we are living in the world of, intersectionality. So there are a lot of, I would say, parallel realities which are running. So we really need to have a much more focused, holistic, structured viewpoint on inclusiveness. So that should be the key. To summarize, I would say, this crisis actually triggers opportunity when it comes to improving diversity, but challenges which need to be addressed by all of us together. How do we ensure inclusiveness? So that would be my views, Shreya.
I think that brings me into the next person who I want to bring on into the conversation, who spoke about why it's imperative in times like a pandemic to look at this. So, John, I'm going to invite you to share your views and thoughts on why Dive In now makes so much more of an impact. John, if we can have you handing it over from Amit to John. Thank you, Amit, for that.
thanks, Shreya. Likewise, it's a pleasure to be on the panel and have a chance to engage with everyone on such an important discussion. And I think, we've obviously been inundated with news about the pandemic over the last 6 months, but I think that there's no timely reminder about how equal humanity is when we look at a virus that doesn't discriminate. And if there's anything that we can learn, I hope that it's while like the virus is discriminatory, that we all should be running our organizations and operating in society in a very similar way. And I think the pandemic has actually really highlighted that society can come together in the face of adversity. But equally, we continue to see heightened tensions, and the Black Lives Matter movement has never had more prominence than we're seeing across the globe. So I think that is an equal reminder that while globalization is improving and while society might think that it's developing in the right direction, there are still many issues to address. And last year I talked at the diversity and inclusion panel for Dive In, and I spoke around why it's just the right thing to do for society. I wish that this wasn't even a topic for discussion. I wish that society was just treating everyone equally because it's the right thing, but we aren't there yet, and it's a shame. But this is a timely reminder from a business perspective as well. We live in a really difficult world, and there are complex challenges and a myriad of risks that clients face. And I don't think that anyone can say they have the solution right now, but what I'm fairly confident from as a leader is that the only way organizations will deliver solutions to clients, particularly in the insurance world, where our whole function is to help protect companies and organizations and people. We're there for society to continue when bad things happen, when losses happen. And the only way that we can really come up with the right solutions and face challenges is with a truly diverse opinion. And the only way that we get that is through a diverse workforce. So the inclusion aspect is making sure that we don't just tick all the right boxes on diversity, but making sure that we hear all the right voices. And there's nothing that should be more important for anyone right now than making sure that we hear all the right voices. And while the pandemic has created this dive in a virtual platform, what better way to broaden inclusivity than having a virtual platform where geographical barriers no longer exist, and this is open to the voices of the many, and we can have the opinions of the many. And with that, like Amit said, I hope that this becomes less of an initiative and more of an ongoing discussion, because for sure, when we look at things like Black Lives Matter, society no longer accepts sound bites. They want to see action. And where they don't see action, then they're going to take action themselves. So we have the ability to continue going in the right direction. And I hope that, this time next year, there will be no need for a diversity and inclusion dive-in festival, but I suspect that we will be. But I hope that there will continue to be positive progress in all aspects. I hope that it will be a physical meeting, and I hope that we've said goodbye to the pandemic. But I also hope that we will continue to be able to operate inclusively and hear all the voices and all the opinions that will only make us better as a society, as leaders, as organizations, looking after our clients and looking after their risks. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to hearing from all the experts on the panels over the next few days as well, to broaden my own inclusivity of voices that I hear as well. So thanks, Shreya, and back to you.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you for, again, bringing the aspect and connecting what happens within organizations into society, and what, again, so imperative. Now I'm going to switch the guns and get Nikhil in on and pass the baton to him. So Nikhil, can we bring you up on screen and have you take this?
Yeah, thanks, Shreya. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfectly clearly.
Okay, great. Okay, Thank you. So I'd like to actually take 30 seconds to just talk about, how dive-in was so important to us to, when we recollect the event last year. It really energized all of us who participated. ERG's got new ideas from people we met. It was an amazing event, and we're really, really looking forward to, even though we're in a different sort of virtual environment, we're looking forward to the same sort of experience we had, all probably a bit different in many ways, but as enriching as ever. So I just wanted to touch on that and also mention that Swiss Re were great hosts last year, and we really learned a lot. So with that, sorry, my video has gone off. Am I still audible? Sorry.
Yes, still hear you. We can hear you.
We can see you too.
So I think we've touched on it a bit, but like everybody else, I just want to talk about a few fairly unique things that we are facing now, and which probably give us opportunities. One is obviously, like Amit pointed out, John pointed out, we are thinking everything ground up, right? Nothing that we believed in before is going to be perpetual into continuity. We've been forced to really look at the way we just view how we work, how we interact with society, our personal lives, our professional lives. Everything has to be rethought. But that creates an opportunity, because whether you've been in working for 30 years or whether you joined the workforce yesterday, none of us in living memory have experienced anything like this. So everybody's ideas and thoughts are as important as everybody else's. I don't think any of us can claim that we're leading the way, we know exactly what we're going to do, how this is all going to end. So that creates a huge opportunity, and in some sense it's sort of an equalizer. In many ways, it doesn't really matter, like I said, on your work experience or any background. You could be a student, you could be contributing with great ideas to this. So I think that's an opportunity we shouldn't overlook, and bringing everybody into the discussion and getting ideas and thoughts about where do we go from here. We know things are going to change. We know they're going to probably change for the better. We're going to learn a lot of things and incorporate them into our future. But none of us really, hand on heart, will say we have all the answers, right? So that's one thing I just wanted to touch on. The other aspect is the silver lining. Now, I feel we've got a lot more connected with everyone around the globe, and I don't know whether that's because we've been watching, especially in the early part of the pandemic, we were watching what was happening in different countries, what different governments were doing. We were relating that to our experiences. John talked about the fact that the virus doesn't discriminate. That's exactly what that point was driven well home to all of us. Whether it doesn't matter. Whether you're a prime minister or a president or an ordinary citizen, it affects everyone. So we got a lot more connected. And that actually funnily brought a different phenomena where through that connection, I think we really felt for other causes. So again, like John pointed out, to Black Lives Matter, it happened in one part of the world, but there was solidarity, peaceful protests all around the world, right? Maybe that's also a phenomena of the fact that we're consuming more media or whatever it is. We feel a lot more connected, and that's something that we've never experienced at this scale in the past. That's something we shouldn't really let go of, and I think that's really, really positive, where we can sort of make a lot of difference. Even if we're in one part of the world, we know we're making a difference somewhere else. The other one is closer to home. If you just think about a migrant crisis, which was probably one of the biggest events for us locally, you had a lot of ordinary citizens who went out of their way wanting to help. These are not necessarily people who had done anything actively in the past, but you saw a lot of action. People organized themselves into these volunteer workforces, which really sometimes on an industrial scale offered food, medicine, shelter, to people, and carry this activity on for a very long period of time.
Nikhil, I think we are unable to hear you. Shreya, yeah, hi.
Nikhil, we couldn't hear you in the last little bit. I think we heard you till, you spoke about volunteer workforces carrying on, and we somewhere lost a bit there. So Nikhil, if you can hear us, maybe you can just switch off the camera and try and leverage the voice. Okay, we seem to have lost Nikhil. I think it's important that in times like this, to look at the silver lining, because a lot of us collectively are facing the brunt of something none of us have ever experienced. So I think what Nikhil spoke about, which is basically to look at what's happening in blurred boundaries and people coming together, just using compassion and empathy to leverage these various things that are happening to actually at the ground level and grassroots level show action. So thank you, Nikhil. If we get you back, we'll bring you back before we close. But I want to now move to Rohit. And Rohit, I want to bring you in here. You to share with us your views, your thoughts on Dive in 2020 and why that connects and relates to all of these aspects.
Thank you, Shreya. I think much has already been said by the fellow panelists here. But when I look at the theme this year, it says voice and global impact, which means D&I is really going global now. Okay, and I echo when everybody says that it is no more of a choice which we have around this. The pandemic has been the biggest learning experience for all of us. We at Willis Watson also, we recognize the need to have a culture of equality, inclusivity, and diversity. We firmly believe that diverse and inclusive workplaces are central to giving organizations a competitive advantage. And in this period, when while there's a lot of awareness around the concept or the relevance of the theme, I think the progress is yet to match up with the pace. And it is here that the leadership can be really instrumental in laying the right foundation or providing the much needed momentum, depending upon the stage of one's IND journey. Now, most of the leaders continue to have financial performance, employee engagement, innovation, expansion, and other traditional business matrices as their priorities. I think there's a larger recognition now that if you can empower the development of right culture in your company, a culture of equality, gender parity, generational diversity, workability, then most of these traditional business matrices will become a derivative. And we are noticing an increasing trend of sort of an affirmative action among corporates today. Hearing in last 3 to 6 months only, I've been hearing a bit around IND, finding a place in boardroom conversations. We've seen clients' inquisitiveness to know more on our IND priorities. So thus, I think a little bit of accountability and commitment from leaders can really act as a force multiplier here. Now, inclusivity in India has got different connotations. Religion, language, socioeconomic backgrounds, education, and all of these are very, very important to us. Religion and culture are so much embedded in our value system and within our organizations. So I think due to our rich heritage and diversity, some of the inclusivity tenets are automatically taken care of. Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, Rohit.
Yeah, are automatically taken care of. But something around, more importantly in this phase around gender parity is what I strongly believe that, one should be looking at. Now, this pandemic, especially in India, has worsened the existing inequalities for women. We've been seeing it, we've been feeling it, we've been hearing about it, wherein it has led to a disproportionate increase in the kind of time the women are spending to take care of their work responsibilities as well as their family responsibilities. So at this point of time, in the given situation, I think our traditional elements which we wanted to focus upon right at the beginning of the year, which were primarily around gender parity, workability, and LGBT, has taken up. We've just modulated it a bit to focus more on gender parity. Now, gender gender equity in our industry also is something we need to strive towards. There has been a significant change since the time I have joined the insurance sector, but I think we've still got miles to cover here. We, at our end right now in this universe, we can make a conscious effort in attracting, in retaining, in progressing women careers in insurance sector. And this is where I think I have been trying to work around with my teams to see how we can really contribute our bit in this entire movement. Now, talking of the other two themes which we wanted to focus on, workability and LGBT, I think workability is again something which one of the panelists just spoke around, wherein it is not only about, I should say, in which as a token gesture, but more as a full-time employment opportunity. If we can try to see people with disabilities, people with different abilities, if they can be, bring into the mainstream, that is where, we can really make a difference. Now, our office, particularly in Manila, has taken large steps towards this and has set an example for the rest of us to follow. So this is where, again, this as a second initiative, we are really looking forward to, even in this environment, how we can contribute around gender parity and workability. That's all I'll have to say. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Nikhil, I see you're back. Thanks once again for talking about business and what business aspects. Nikhil, your closing thoughts and then.
Yeah, sure. Apologies, I lost the connection. But yeah, very quickly, I was just saying that, there's so many people who are doing so much social good, who stood up, rose up to the challenge. And, like I mentioned, the migrant crisis helped, and many other, in many ways. So I think, harnessing that in our respective organizations, because many of them are our employees.
Maybe you can switch off your video and just so we can just have audio, because there's some disturbance again. So if you can just have you switch off your video and then share your thoughts on audio. Okay, we're having trouble bringing Nikhil back up. We're trying to do virtual conversations, but I think the leadership panel really brought into context why a dive in 2020, whether it's virtual and across geographies, is so important. We spoke about so many aspects, but I think what stood out to me most is the fact that the change is no more somewhere impending. The change is up on us, and it's up to us to actually be that change, both as organizations and as people. I'm going to say thank you to everybody who joined us on the leadership panel. Thank you, Shankar. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you, Rohit. Thank you, John. Thank you so much for actually investing your energies and the energies of your teams in something as important and imperative as this. Nikhil, we have you back. We lost you yet again, but if you want to quickly give us some closing comments, I think we'd love to hear from you, because we lost you a couple of times. Okay. Can you hear me? Show me a thumbs up if you can. Just get you to quickly share your last thought that you were holding on to.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, I'm really sorry. It's never happened before, but anyway, Yeah, so I was just saying that a lot of these employees are within our organization, and therefore that's an opportunity for us to harness that great effort that people are putting in. And just the last point I want to make is that I don't think anything is truly local anymore. If you think about it, with the advent of social media and media in general, any issue you talk about generally resonates across the world, right? In some shape or form. We may not know where it resonates, but it does resonate. And that's a big learning for us. So I'm not going to risk my connection going off again, but let me end there. And thank you very much, Shreya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, leadership panel. I was lovely to hear from all of you, and such come together and set the tone, tenor, and context for what we're beginning today live in 2020. Thank you, John, Rohit, Nikhil, Shankar, and Amit. Thank you for, like I said, investing not only your energies, but the energies of your teams that have been working consistently to bring to, to make today, tomorrow, and day after happen. So thank you so much.